Liverpool 7, Manchester United 0. What on earth happened in this game? I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to do justice to that question, but I'm going to give it a good go. So here on the board in front of me, I've got the two teams as they lined up, both teams lining up in similar ways that you would expect them to. Let's just have a think about what each team was trying to do, because in the first half at least, this was a very close game. Now, when it comes to Manchester United, we know that what they like to do is try and generate these transitional moments. So what they're going to try and get the opposition to do is commit players forward, play a high line into these sorts of situations, generate a load of space here that can be exploited. And then usually what we see is Marcus Rashford being moved into this sort of position here to try and get these really dangerous runs in behind from the left. Bruno Fernandes, we know, a great ball player. They're going to try and get the ball to him in these transitional moments. He's going to try and play the ball into this space. The ball is going to be brought down, and how many times have we seen Marcus Rashford score from these very situations? So we know that Manchester United are going to be looking to generate these transitional moments where they're going to be super dangerous from. But there's a problem here, and that is that Liverpool also like to try and generate transitional moments themselves too. So in this lineup, we've got two players here, so Mohamed Salah and Darwin Núñez. Both of them are really great attacking transitional players in wide areas. We've got Cody Gakpo here going to play a little deeper. He's going to drop in like Firmino does, and they're going to try and get the ball to him and try and get him to be able to generate these sorts of transitional moments as well on the other side of the field. And so what Manchester United usually try and do in these situations is stop the opposition from being able to build up, get the ball into these forward players, and then get them to execute these transitional moments. The way that they do that is by being really aggressive out of possession. And one of the keys that let us know that this was going to be the way that Manchester United were going to approach this game came very soon after they kicked off, because we saw that Erik ten Hag did one of his favourite tactical switches, and that is you might usually expect Wout Weghorst to play as a 9, Rashford to play on that left-hand side. As we said, he really likes to attack from that left-hand side into the goal, and Fernandes in the 10 spot, because that's where he's going to be able to do most of his creative passing. Now, actually, when the game kicked off, what we saw was Marcus Rashford was being used as a 9, Bruno Fernandes replaced him out on the left, and then Wout Weghorst played as an almost 10 or 8 hybrid player, which is not what you would expect from him at all. Now, what is the reasoning behind this? Now, in my opinion, the reason why he makes this shift is because he wants to be really aggressive out of possession. So let's just have a think about what Manchester United are doing out of possession. Now, I've already said that Liverpool are going to try and build up from the back, get the ball forward, and then generate these mini transitions where they can get Darwin Núñez and Mohamed Salah into these dangerous attacking situations. But they're going to try and do that by building out from the back. And so Manchester United are going to try and stop them from doing that. This gives them two advantages. One is that it stops Liverpool from being as dangerous transitionally, but also if you win the ball back in the opponent's build-up phase, you're also in a really good situation to actually generate really nice mini transitions yourself. So if Anthony wins the ball back in this situation, Marcus Rashford has got a lot of space that he can then attack, the ball can be played to him and they can generate an attack here. So this was the model I think that Manchester United were going to try and do. And the way that they do this is they have this really narrow front three, and depending on how the opposition build up, what they're going to do is they're going to go player for player. So if the ball goes this side, they're going to all shift across this way, they're going to leave the fullback free. This is important for later on, so keep that in mind. If the ball goes out the other side, then they just do the same movement the other way. Now this fullback is free, the ball far fullback here. And so what we have then in the rest of the field is Manchester United players matching up man-to-man in the midfield area. This is the reason why Weghorst has dropped back, because he's a really good out-of-possession player. Then you've got Fred and Casemiro, two really great defensive and pressing players as well on that midfield area. This is to stop Liverpool from just having an easy pass into the midfield and then being able to build up in this way. And then in the defensive line, we've got the two fullbacks isolated against the wide players for Liverpool, and then there's two centre-backs for Manchester United on the centre-forward for Liverpool. And the idea is that if the ball goes on one side, this centre-back can come across and help out. You've still got coverage of the centre-forward with the centre-back, and vice versa the other way. So you may have seen Martinez and Salah having quite a fun battle at different times in this game. So the idea is that you're going to go player for player across the pitch, make it really hard for the opposition to build up and generate those transitional moments. You are going to leave free players here and there, but the idea is that if this ball is played across to the free man, the wide player drops in to help out, the midfielder can come across here, and we can see the rest of the midfield shift across, and then again you've got coverage here. So the whole idea is make it as hard as possible for the opposition to generate any sort of attack. Maybe win the ball back, maybe attack yourself. And so the story of the first half was two teams who are really finely balanced, trying to generate these transitional moments. Both teams managed to do that fairly well. So let's talk about Manchester United's chances. There was one moment where they passed the ball out to Luke Shaw. He played the ball in perfectly to Marcus Rashford here, in between the two Liverpool centre-backs. The ball comes down, he hit it first time and it wasn't a great shot, went straight to Alisson. Maybe he had a chance to take it down, make it more dangerous. opportunity. He didn't manage to do that. And the other one came from a ball from the wide area. So Diogo Dalot got the ball 2 feet, plays the ball across the box to Bruno Fernandes, who had a header at a very narrow angle of the goal and it went wide. So they generated 2 moments from transitional situations. But it's worth saying that both of these chances were generated by really good balls from distance from a Manchester United player to their teammate. So Luke Shaw plays a ball over Marcus Rashford's shoulder. He does really well to get a chance away, but it is a tricky shot when it arrives. We've already said that he could have taken it down. He decided not to. That made the chance much harder. And then the ball coming from Dalot is not only a wide angle, it's also a header, which makes it more difficult to score as well. So these were, I would say, more difficult transitional moments. Now, when it comes to Liverpool, I would say that they generated their dangerous chance from the first half through a tactical weakness that Manchester United have. So let's have a think about what happened there, because we've already talked about how in certain situations Manchester United leave a free player. For the first goal, Liverpool are trying to build up from the back. Robertson is left free because Antony's come across to Van Dijk. Rashford is here, Fernandes is on the other fullback. Now Konate can play the ball across into this area, and as we've said, what happens in these situations is that Manchester United do their best to sort out this free player in one way or another. Now the way that they did this was actually, we've got Gakpo on the other side, these two have switched places, but Diogo Dalot pushes forward onto Robertson, Gakpo pushes wide, Fred drops across to help out. And what happens is that Robertson cuts inside here, he has the ball in space, and he is able to find, because Fred's come across here, a really nice ball through the back line here, plays it to Gakpo, runs onto it, Varane drops in, Gakpo is able to turn him, go around him, and then score in the far corner. So this is generating, I would say, a transitional moment from a Manchester United weakness, that free fullback where they have to try and sort out the free man with defensive movements. That creates the space then that Liverpool can attack. And actually in this situation, although I think it's probably technically a harder chance, because Gakpo's got the ball under control, actually that makes it much easier for him to score than it would be if he didn't have it under control. And so Liverpool go in at halftime, a goal up, and this changes everything, because we've already talked about this being a battle between two sides who are going to try and generate these transitional moments. And when you're a goal up, it's much easier to do that. You can sit a little bit deeper, you can wait for the opposition to push onto you, and that opens up more space that you can then attack as well. But I think there's something more going on here than just the game changing because Liverpool got that first goal. And this comes down to the way that Manchester United are super aggressive in the out of possession phase. So we've already talked about how Manchester United like to go player for player when the opposition are building up, because that makes it harder for the opposition to get time on the ball, space on the ball, and often they'll lose the ball in the process. So let's imagine that the ball's played out to Konate, Rashford comes across here, Antony comes across here. What we've got here is player for player on the ball side, so this is where the ball is. So Manchester United are going to make it as hard as possible for Liverpool being able to get on the ball here. And then across the midfield, again, we've got player for player. And then in the fullback areas, player for player. We do have two centre-backs on the one forward because you do want a little bit of extra coverage, especially if this centre-back has to drop out, you've still got the coverage here. But to do that, what we need to do is leave a weakness, and as we saw, Manchester United like to do that in the fullback area. Now, they do have ways of trying to solve those problems, and usually they do a good job of it. They didn't manage to on the first goal. But the problem here is that they're going player for player across the pitch in a lot of different areas, and that can often lead to problems further down the line. So why might this be an issue? Well, what you're doing when you go player for player across the pitch is you're relying on these 1v1 duels in every situation. And often what's best to do is to get aggressive players into those duels. So in the midfield, we've already talked about how Fred, Weghorst and Casemiro are really aggressive out of possession players. But the problem is that you're reliant on these players winning their 1v1 duels all over the place. As soon as you go down, as soon as you're being pulled deeper, you're leaving your back line under a lot of pressure, especially when you're playing against a team who have really, really dangerous transitional players yourself. Now you're reliant on those 1v1 matchups not failing at all through the course of the game. And what actually happens as the game goes on, Manchester United are under more and more pressure. And as a result, these sorts of matchups then become riskier and riskier. You're playing on a knife edge all the time, and all it takes is for you to miss a challenge, and then a player is through. We saw that happen with the second goal when Salah went past Martinez, and that generated a really dangerous situation for Gakpo to score as well. And as the game went on, Manchester United started losing their heads, and as a result of that, the aggression that they require in these 1v1 matchups got worse and worse and worse. Liverpool got better and better and better because there was more space to attack, and Manchester United were all over the place. And in many respects, this game reminded me a lot of another manager who likes to use man v man out of possession systems. And that manager was Marcelo Bielsa, who, when he was in the Premier League, had a lot of games where actually they turned into bloodbaths because the out of possession structure was so dangerous to use that actually games got away from him quite quickly. So what on earth happened in this game? Well, in the first half, it was really finely balanced. Both teams were trying to get transitional moments to get the upper hand. And in the end, it was Liverpool who got that first goal. And from that point onwards, Manchester United's risky out of possession system really did for them. And the big question is, could that be a problem for them in the future?
If you like this video, please consider subscribing to the channel. The Athletic is home to some of the world's best sports journalists, including journalists dedicated to each Premier League team, so every fan gets the coverage they deserve, not just the big clubs. And you can try it for free now for 30 days. See the link in the description.